Hi, welcome back to my channel. Last month I made a video ranking the crimes of the Hunger Games movies, but specifically the first two movies. And I had said in that video that if you guys liked it, I would do a part 2. And I've gotten quite a few requests for a part 2, so you asked and I've delivered. Today I will be ranking the crimes of the Hunger Games Mockingjay movies. So if you haven't watched part 1, you should go and do that before watching the rest of this video. So it has come to my attention from doing the last video, mostly from memory and looking up specific scenes that I wanted to highlight, that these movies have been on Hulu this whole time. Thank you to those who told me in the comments on the last video. I am an idiot. I am a whole clown. So I actually did rewatch the Mockingjay movies for this one. Okay, so I'm editing this video right now and I thought I would give a quick explanation or disclaimer before you watch the rest of this video. So the Mockingjay movies are about a war, so there are a lot of crimes to rank, but I omitted some of them for the sake of not making this tier list too imbalanced. I also wanted to keep myself from just giving a very detailed plot summary. I mean, of course I recap the movies, but I didn't want to do too much of that. So if there's anything I missed, that was just my logic behind that, but just enjoy the video anyway. So Mockingjay Part 1. First of all, let's be real, the two parts could have been one movie, and the fact that it isn't is goofy. So yes, that is the first crime, and we're putting that under goofy. But at the beginning of the movie, we leave off directly after the events of Hunger Games catching fire, and Katniss had been taken by the Claw in the third quarter Quell Games, and she is now with Gale, and Gale's explaining to her that they're in District 13. Then Katniss finds out that Peeta, Joanna, and Finnick's wife Annie have been clawed by the Capitol. Finnick is like, "This bites, I wish we were all dead," which is awful, but also real for what's going on. So the second crime is the three of them being taken, and that's going in the bottom tier. Then we're introduced to the president of District 13, the leader of the second rebellion, President Coin. Say what you will about President Coin. Like, yes, she's the antagonist, she's the villain, but if you've been on my channel long enough, you know I love a girl boss. I love a girl boss, so I can't put her at the very bottom, so I'm gonna put her in the third tier. President Coin is then like, "Katniss, bestie, you've ignited something within the people because you've girl bossed to the sun, so now there's a revolution. You're the symbol and leader now." I think a 16-year-old girl, or I guess 17 or 18 years old at this point, being the leader and symbol of a revolution is kind of goofy. Like, much needed for the narrative, of course, but still goofy, so I'm putting that under goofy. But Katniss is like, what? So then they manipulate her into doing this, and by doing this I mean being the leader of the revolution and all, by showing her destroyed home. There's gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, and then there's manipulate, mansplain, male wife, and that's exactly what this is. So this is going in the bottom tier under Nor. So yeah, District 12 was bombed. As Effie would say, Primrose Everdeen is alive, but more importantly, Buttercup, Prim's cat, is alive. Katniss's first nemesis, and I think that's goofy, especially because when you think about it, the only animals that we see in the movie series that aren't like manufactured by the Capitol are like birds, pigs, and this cat. President Snow makes a speech where he's like, "Stop. You want to revolt? Don't. You don't like me? Simply pass away." Then we see Caesar interview Peeta, and my guy has deteriorated. My guy is brainwashed. Hard fall for Peeta if it wasn't for the baby Malark, and that's going on the bottom tier. Next crime, I gotta rank Effie's look. There's a lot to unpack here. Next, I gotta rank the Mockingjay outfit because Katniss slayed so hard she quite literally may never slay again because it's war, baby. That's iconic, and this is a note to my future self to put Katniss in this outfit in the thumbnail. Anyway, so Katniss meets her team, and then she's on her way to District 8 with them and her camera crew because she's a vlogger now, I guess. And she's seen being saluted by the wounded people at the hospital, and then President Snow sees this and he's like, "All these people committed treason. Let's bomb this bitch."
Everyone inside that hospital has committed treason. Show them what it costs to be friends with Katniss Everdeen.
This goes for anything that President Snow does, really, but specifically bombing the hospital goes on the bottom tier. So something to note is that after this, Katniss shoots an arrow at the Capitol ship and is like, "If we burn, you burn with us, bestie." We see another clip of Peeta and his hijacked arrow where he's like, "Katniss, you need to stop." And he's saying that only because he's brainwashed. But Gale is like, "What a coward. If you thought the Gale slander was over, you are wrong." Gale is like, "I would never say what he just said." Shut up, Gale. Then Katniss is like, "No, we need to show him that his home is destroyed." So they go home, and then Gale and Katniss kiss, and Gale was literally like, "I knew you would do that because I'm in pain and that's the only way I can get your attention." Like, that's literally the line, and I hate it, so we're putting it in ugh. Then Katniss and her team go to this pit in District 12, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and then we get the iconic Hanging Tree song. Are you
coming to the tree.
I don't think Spotify was doing Spotify Wrapped yet in 2014, but if they had done it, it would have been up there for me. By the way, this song legit charted. Like, it got to number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100. Yes, 12, a very ironic number. I'm not even kidding. This song was sandwiched between Jealous by Nick Jonas and Bang Bang by girl bosses Ariana Grande, Jessie J, and Nicki Minaj. It was truly a time to have been an impressionable young teen. So if you couldn't gather it, I'm putting the Hanging Tree song in the top tier. Then so much chaos happens. In District 5, a large group of protesters launch a suicidal attack on the capital's primary source of electricity, a hydroelectric dam. The dam is then successfully breached, causing a blackout in the capital, and then during a televised interview, PETA suddenly warns Katniss of an impending attack on District 13, and then the district is evacuated and it survives the attack, and Katniss realizes that the capital is using PETA's safety to manipulate her. Coin sends a special forces team to rescue PETA and the other captured victors like Joanna and Annie. Then there's a propaganda video narrated by Finnick where he exposes Snow's cruel tactics such as forcing desirable tributes into prostitution. We'll say this again and for the rest of time, Finnick deserved better and deserved to be a bigger character than he was in these movies. Hi, it's me editing here, so I meant to rank Finnick being exploited and abused by the Capitol, but I guess I forgot to include the picture when I was making the tier list, and because I didn't see the picture, I just mentioned it and then moved on to the next crime, but I swear it was in my list of crimes. I don't know how that happened, but let's just pretend like that was in the bottom tier. Katniss communicates with President Snow to distract him, allowing the rescue team to succeed. The next crime is PETA attacking Katniss upon their reunion because PETA is still brainwashed and hijacked by the Capitol. A violent scene that shook me to my core when I was 14. I was shooketh, and that's going in the bottom tier. So PETA Bread is kept in confinement while they try to find a cure for this, and the rebels set their sights on District 2, and the last shot of Mockingjay Part 1 is Katniss looking at PETA through glass. And that is Mockingjay Part 1, my least favorite Hunger Games movie, probably because there was too much of Gale in it. Now we're on to Mockingjay Part 2, and I feel like this is an appropriate time to mention that Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson were putting their blood, sweat, and tears into their performances. Like, they slayed in all the movies, but I feel like Catching Fire was Jennifer Lawrence's movie, and the Mockingjay movies were Josh Hutcherson's movies, you know? So since I ranked Jennifer Lawrence's acting in the first video, I feel like I gotta do the same with Josh Hutcherson and put his acting in the top tier. So Mockingjay Part 2 starts with PETA still thinking that Katniss is sussy, a little sussy baka, and even after Prim talks to him, he's like, "Nar." Then Katniss and the rebels head over to District 2. Then Gale and Katniss kiss. Again, my villain origin story. Then Katniss hears about Gale's tactic to bomb twice. I think he calls it like the hummingbird or something. And then Katniss is like, "Nar." And then Gale is like, "This is war, catnip." So Gale in this conversation is just in the third tier. So they bomb the headquarters and then they try to rally the citizens to convince them to join the rebellion. And then they're like, "I want to kill you, Katniss." And Katniss is like, "I hear you, but consider killing each other is what the Capitol wants us to do. They've been making us do that all these years." And then she gets shot by a civilian. But she's fine because she's bulletproof, nothing to lose, fire away, like Anna Kendrick and Brittany Snow from Pitch Perfect. But yeah, her getting shot by a civilian goes at the bottom. Then PETA, brainwashed as hell, may I remind you, tells Katniss that when he gave the bread to her, remember the bread scene? He said he should have just given it to the pigs. And this felt personal. This legit hurt me. It hurt me as a penis stan. I don't like that I said that, so that's a bottom tier moment. Next crime but not a crime is seeing Finnick and Annie get married. This is the happiness that I want for Finnick. I am so violently sad over what ends up happening to him, but this itself goes at the top. Side note, it just started storming outside, so if you can hear the rain and the thunder, I'm sorry, but hopefully it provides some good ambiance. Katniss then separates from District 13 to go to the Capitol to kill Snow herself, and then President Coin finds out about this, and she's like, "Okay, let's raid the Capitol." But of course President Snow is like, "I'm Kevin McAllister, bitch, I've got this place booby-trapped." And man, if you thought the demon monkeys from Catching Fire were terrifying, you're not ready for the mutts. Actually, the monkeys are arguably scarier than the mutts because, hear me out, because the mutts are so ugly that you just kind of can't help but laugh a little. Like, what is that?
Oh my god, what is that? Oh my god, what is that?
But we're putting the mutts at the bottom, especially because they bring us to our next crime, a crime that feels so personal to me, and that's Finnick dying. He didn't need to die. He didn't need to die. Suzanne Collins. Suzanne. Susie. Bestie, I have personal beef with you over this. It should have been Gale. It should have been Gale. So they escape the sewers and they're trying to blend in, but then there's more chaos because the rebels start bombing and then the Capitol starts sending bombs, and then Katniss watches Prim die. Prim dying is obviously the next crime that goes on the bottom tier, but if I'm being honest, in terms of the deaths in the Hunger Games movies, Prim's didn't hit me as hard, and I don't know why, at least in the movies, but it's going at the bottom nonetheless. In the midst of the bombings, Katniss is knocked unconscious, and then when she wakes up, Haymitch informs her that they have won the war. So she goes to this greenhouse where Snow is, and then Snow tells her that it was actually coin bombing, and Katniss is like, I don't believe you, and then Snow is like, we promised each other that we wouldn't lie to one another. Plot twist of the century, Girl Boss Coin is actually Gaslight and Gatekeep Coin. That's an Onar crime. Coin is then like, I'm interim president of Panem, and let's kill Snow and then have a symbolic Hunger Games. A symbolic Hunger Games, and that is goofy. They take a vote among the previous victors over whether or not they should do the symbolic Hunger Games, and then it's pretty split, and then Katniss agrees and says as long as I get to kill Snow. But as she's about to kill Snow, she actually kills Coin. The biggest slay that goes in the top tier. Bit more context, Peeta had been slowly gaining the ability to differentiate his own memories from the memories that the Capitol put in his head. So after Katniss kills Coin, she's about to take the Nightlock pill, and then he stops her. President Snow also dies, and then they go home, and Katniss finds Peeta, who's doing some gardening. We love a multifaceted man. But the movie ends with a flash forward scene where Katniss and Peeta are together and they have 2 kids. And Katniss is describing how when she has a nightmare, she plays this game where she thinks about every single good thing that she's ever seen a person do. Then her last line is, these games get tedious at times, but there are much worse games to play. I was gagged. The audible gasp I let out when I read that for the first time. It was so satisfying to hear that in theaters too. We're ending on a high note and we're putting that in the top tier. And that concludes my ranking of the crimes of the Hunger Games movies. Suzanne Collins really did what needed to be done. I wish I could experience this franchise for the first time again. Honestly, these movies were a bit harder to do a ranking for because, like, they're literally about war. Like, this is so imbalanced because these 2 movies were just, like, completely different from the first 2. But I hope you enjoyed this video anyways. Thank you so much for watching and supporting me as always. Give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment about anything I missed or what you think, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already.